This file was discovered in a storage room of the Massachusetts State Police headquarters in 2019, buried beneath decades of forgotten paperwork. The manila folder, marked Unresolved Restricted Access, contained documents that had been sealed since 1978. What follows is a reconstruction of the events that terrorized the small town of Dover, Massachusetts, in April 1977. The first report came in at 9:47 p.m. on April 21, 1977. Officer Raymond Mills had been patrolling the quiet streets of Dover when dispatch crackled to life with an unusual call. A teenage boy named William Bartlett was on the line, his voice shaking as he reported seeing something that defied explanation near the old stone wall on Farm Street. Mills drove to the scene, expecting to find another false alarm, or maybe a raccoon that had spooked the kid. What he found instead was a 17-year-old boy sitting in his car, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles had gone white. Bartlett's eyes were wide with terror, and he kept looking over his shoulder toward the tree line as if expecting something to emerge from the darkness. "What exactly did you see?" Mills asked, notepad ready. Bartlett's voice came out in a rush. "I was driving home from my girlfriend's house around 10:30, coming down Farm Street by the old stone wall near Springdale Cemetery. At first I thought it was a dog or maybe a cat, but when my headlights hit it, he trailed off, running a shaking hand through his hair." "Take your time," Mills said, though something in the kid's manner was making him uneasy. "It was climbing on the stone wall, moving like a spider, all these spindly limbs. It was maybe 3.5 feet tall, completely hairless. The skin looked gray or tan, rough textured. But the head, Officer Mills, the head was huge, like a watermelon balanced on a stick." Mills wrote furiously, though he was beginning to suspect this was either a prank or the result of too much weekend drinking. "What about facial features? That's the thing that really got me. The eyes were glowing, not reflecting my headlights, actually glowing orange like coals in a fire. When it looked at me, I felt like it was studying me, like it was intelligent." Mills looked up from his notepad. The kid seemed genuinely terrified, and there was something in his voice that suggested he wasn't making this up. "Did it make any sounds?" "No sounds at all. That was almost worse than if it had roared or something. It just stared for maybe 3 seconds. Then it moved. Fast. Faster than anything that size should be able to move. It went over the wall and into the woods in one fluid motion." Mills conducted a thorough search of the area but found no evidence of any unusual animal activity. No tracks, no scat, nothing disturbed in the underbrush. But as he wrote in his supplemental notes that night, something about the kid's story bothered him. Bartlett seemed genuinely shaken, showed no signs of intoxication, and the details were too specific and consistent to be fabricated on the spot. The report was filed under Animal Control Unidentified, and might have been forgotten entirely if not for what happened exactly 24 hours later. At 11:15 p.m. on April 22nd, 15-year-old John Baxter was walking home from a friend's house on Miller High Road when he saw a small figure in the distance. The night was clear, with enough moonlight to make out shapes but not details. Baxter initially thought it might be a child who had wandered away from home. "Hey!" he called out, but the figure stopped and turned toward him in a way that made his blood run cold. Baxter found himself looking at the same impossible creature that William Bartlett had described the night before, though Baxter had no knowledge of the previous incident. The eyes were the first thing that struck him, glowing orange orbs that seemed to bore into his soul. The head was grotesquely oversized, like a baby's head inflated to the size of a basketball. The arms and legs were impossibly thin and long, giving the creature the appearance of a living stick figure. When Baxter tried to get closer, the creature simply melted into the trees with fluid grace that seemed to defy physics. Terrified and confused, Baxter ran the rest of the way home and immediately called the police. Officer Patricia Hendricks responded to the call and found Baxter walking along the roadside, visibly shaken. Her radio log from that night captures her growing unease. "Control, this is Unit 12. I've got another kid here talking about the same weird creature from last night. Same description, big head, orange eyes, no fur. Kid's scared, but he seems legit. Something strange is going on in Dover. Hendricks conducted her interview with Baxter, noting that he seemed genuinely disturbed by what he had seen. More importantly, his description matched the previous night's report with remarkable accuracy, despite having no knowledge of Bartlett's encounter. The way it moved, Baxter told her, was kind of like a monkey walking on two legs, but more purposeful. When I called out to it, it stopped and turned toward me. The eyes were definitely glowing, this orange-amber color. When it saw me looking, it just melted into the trees like liquid. The Dover Herald picked up the story on April 24th, running it under the headline "Mysterious Creature Sightings Puzzle Dover Police." The article quoted both witnesses and included a statement from Police Chief Robert Morrison acknowledging that the department was taking the reports seriously, despite finding no physical evidence. Dr. Margaret Chin from Harvard University was quoted offering a rational explanation. Mange can cause hair loss in various mammals, and certain eye conditions can create the appearance of glowing or reflective eyes. But both witnesses insisted that what they had seen walked upright on two legs and displayed intelligence unlike any known animal. The newspaper coverage prompted a third witness to come forward. 15-year-old Abby Brabham contacted the police on April 25th, claiming she had seen the same creature on the night of April 22nd, the same night as John Baxter's encounter, but at a different location. Brabham had been reluctant to report her experience, fearing ridicule, but reading about the other sightings convinced her that she wasn't losing her mind. Her friend Will Anderson had been driving her home around midnight when they spotted the creature crouched by the side of Springdale Road near the old mill foundation. At first it looked like a person kneeling down, Brabham told Officer Mills during her interview. But when our headlights hit it, it stood up. That's when we could see how wrong it was. The proportions were all off. The head was huge, like a melon on top of a broomstick. And the fingers, God, the fingers were so long, like twigs with too many joints. Brabham's mother, Helen, was present during the interview and confirmed that her daughter had come home white as a sheet that night and had been having nightmares ever since. What made Brabham's account particularly unsettling was her description of the creature's behavior. It tilted its head like it was curious about us, she said. Then it just flowed away into the trees, didn't run exactly. More like it poured itself between the branches. By this point, Chief Morrison was becoming seriously concerned. 3 separate witnesses, none of whom had communicated with each other, had provided remarkably consistent descriptions of an entity that shouldn't exist. More troubling still was Officer Mills' discovery that both the Springdale Cemetery area and Miller High Road had histories of unexplained incidents dating back to the 1940s. A review of old police files revealed scattered reports of strange figures and unusual animal sightings in the same general area over several decades. Most had been dismissed as pranks or hysteria, but the consistency of the descriptions was beginning to form a disturbing pattern. The Massachusetts State Police were quietly contacted for assistance, though no official investigation was launched. Instead, the case seemed to disappear into bureaucratic limbo, with reports being filed away and witnesses discouraged from speaking publicly about their experiences. But the story refused to die completely. In the months following the initial sightings, Dover residents began reporting other strange incidents. Pets disappeared without explanation. Residents reported feeling watched while walking near the wooded areas where the creature had been spotted. Children complained of nightmares featuring the orange-eyed thing. Local folklore began to emerge around what was dubbed the Dover Demon. Some claimed it was an extraterrestrial scout, observing human behavior before a larger invasion. Others suggested it might be a cryptid, an unknown species that had somehow avoided scientific classification. The more rational theories proposed mass hysteria or misidentification of known animals, but these explanations struggled to account for the consistency of the witness descriptions. The most disturbing theory, whispered among Dover's older residents, connected the creature to local Native American legends about shape-shifting entities that lived in the spaces between worlds. According to these stories, such beings occasionally manifested during times of spiritual turbulence, serving as harbingers of change or disaster. Dr. Loren Coleman, a cryptozoologist who would later write extensively about the Dover Demon, visited the area in the summer of 1977. His interviews with witnesses and investigation of the sighting locations convinced him that something genuinely anomalous had occurred. Coleman noted that the creature's description didn't match any known animal, extinct or extant, and that the witnesses' accounts showed none of the typical signs of fabrication or embellishment. What Coleman found most intriguing was the creature's apparent intelligence. All three witnesses had described behavior that suggested curiosity rather than fear or aggression. The entity seemed to be observing humans rather than avoiding them, studying their reactions and movements with what appeared to be scientific interest. The official file was sealed in 1978, with a notation that the case remained unresolved pending further evidence. No further evidence was ever officially recorded, though rumors persisted of additional sightings that were never reported to authorities. In 1982, a hiker claimed to have photographed strange tracks near the original sighting location, but the images were too blurry for positive identification. In 1991, a Dover resident reported finding unusual scratches on trees in a pattern that seemed too regular to be natural, but no investigation was conducted. The most recent entry in the unofficial Dover Demon file dates to 2003, when a family camping in the Springdale area reported being awakened by the sound of something moving through their campsite in the middle of the night. When they turned on their flashlights, they caught a brief glimpse of a pale, hairless figure with glowing eyes before it vanished into the darkness. The family reported the incident to park rangers but were told that they had probably seen a bear or large raccoon. No official report was filed, but the story circulated among local paranormal investigators and added to the growing legend of the Dover Demon. Today, the case remains one of the most well-documented cryptid sightings in New England history. The consistency of the witness accounts, the credibility of the observers, and the complete lack of any conventional explanation have made it a favorite subject among researchers of unexplained phenomena. The original police files, when finally discovered in 2019, revealed the extent to which the case had been quietly suppressed. Internal memos showed that state authorities were indeed aware of the incidents but chose not to pursue investigation, apparently fearing the impact on tourism and local property values. Perhaps most disturbing of all was a handwritten note found clipped to the inside of the file folder. Similar incidents reported in Bridgewater 1969, Lynn 1973, Salem 1975. Pattern suggests periodic manifestations. Recommend continued monitoring without public acknowledgement. Investigation suspended indefinitely. The note was unsigned and undated, but its implications are chilling. If accurate, it suggests that the Dover Demon was not an isolated incident but part of a larger pattern of unexplained encounters that authorities have been tracking and suppressing for decades. The three witnesses from 1977 have all maintained their stories throughout the intervening years. William Bartlett became a successful artist and has painted several representations of the creature he encountered. John Baxter joined the military and served with distinction, his credibility never questioned by those who know him. Abby Brabham became a nurse and has spoken occasionally about her experience, always emphasizing that she knows the difference between reality and imagination. None of them has ever recanted or modified their testimony. All three continue to insist that they encountered something genuinely anomalous that April weekend in 1977, something that challenged their understanding of what was possible in the ordered world they thought they knew. The Dover Demon represents something more than just another cryptid sighting. It embodies our deepest fears about the unknown territories that still exist in our mapped and cataloged world. In an age when we believe we have identified and classified every living creature on Earth, the Dover Demon reminds us that mysteries still lurk in the shadows at the edges of our suburban lives. The creature's appearance, simultaneously alien and somehow familiar, with its oversized head and glowing eyes, taps into primal fears that extend back to humanity's earliest nightmares. It is the bogeyman made manifest, the thing that watches from the darkness just beyond the comforting circle of our campfire light. But perhaps most disturbing of all is the Dover Demon's apparent intelligence. This was not a mindless beast driven by hunger or territorial instinct. According to all three witnesses, the creature seemed to be studying them, observing their behavior with the detached curiosity of a scientist examining laboratory specimens. This raises uncomfortable questions about humanity's place in the cosmic hierarchy. If the Dover demon was indeed some form of non-human intelligence, what did its presence in our world signify? Were we the subjects of some vast experiment, observed and catalogued by entities whose nature and purpose we could not begin to comprehend? The file on the Dover demon remains officially closed, but unofficially, the investigation continues. Researchers and enthusiasts still monitor the Dover area, hoping for new sightings or evidence. The creature has become part of local folklore, a cautionary tale told around campfires and at slumber parties. But for those who were there in April 1977, the Dover demon is more than just a story. It is a reminder that our world contains mysteries that defy explanation, entities that exist beyond the boundaries of our scientific understanding. It is proof that in the spaces between what we know and what we fear, impossible things still move through the darkness, watching and waiting for reasons we may never understand. The orange eyes that haunted 3 teenagers on those spring nights in Dover continue to glow in the collective memory of all who have heard their story. They serve as a reminder that no matter how civilized and comfortable we make our world, the unknown still lurks at its edges, patient and eternal, waiting for the moment when it will step into the light and force us to confront the limits of our understanding. In the end, the Dover demon may be less important as a cryptozoological specimen than as a symbol of the persistent mystery that surrounds us. It reminds us that wonder and terror still walk hand in hand through the dark places of our world, and that some questions may be more important than their answers. The file remains open in the minds of those who experienced that April weekend in 1977. For them, the Dover demon is not a legend or a story. It is a memory that refuses to fade, a glimpse into a reality far stranger and more complex than the one we think we inhabit. And somewhere in the woods of Dover, Massachusetts, in the shadows beneath the old stone walls and forgotten foundations, something may still be watching, waiting for the next group of unsuspecting witnesses to stumble into its domain and carry its story into the light.